everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of 2020. A few days before Christmas, and at this point I've read 140 books. My Goodreads goal was actually 100, so I'm really happy about that. This is the most I've read ever. Never read this many books before. So I'm really excited about it, and I had a really great year of reading. I don't have a lot of bad books to talk about, like worth of making a video, but I definitely read a lot of really great books that I truly enjoyed, and I wanted to talk about that with you guys. So with that being said, let's get into it. So first, I guess I should start off by saying I kind of broke everything into categories, and the first category is going to be my favorite audiobook. So one of the first audiobooks that I really loved this year was the Illuminate Files. I know I've talked about this several times, but I tried to get in reading the physical copy, didn't like it, had an Audible credit, and just thought, you know what, why not? Gave it a try, and I was absolutely obsessed. I think the audiobook version of this series is really great. Kind of recommend that over the physical, but you know, if you enjoy that style of book, you'll like it, you know, the mixed media type situation. I couldn't get into it, but the audiobook I thought was superb, had me on the edge of my seat. I loved the voice narrators. I thought they did a great job, and it was 5 stars for me for every single one. The next one was The Night Swim. I really enjoyed this one. I read this for Summerween, I think, and it's another one I absolutely recommend as an audiobook, but I'm sure the physical book is just as good. But because it's a woman who does a podcast going into a town that has an active trial, and she's talking to you about it like from herself, and then you also hear her talking about it on her podcast. I thought that was a really cool dynamic, and I think the fact that she's talking on the podcast made the audiobook that much more fun. So I'd absolutely recommend that. And lastly, the Dave Abad trilogy. I'm not finished with the final book yet, but I can absolutely say that the voice narrator of this series is amazing. I love listening to the series. I love the voices that she does. She makes the whole story very like exciting and interesting, like outside of the fact that it already is exciting and interesting. But I love the voice narrator for that. And I would, again, that's another one I recommend doing audio if you can. I don't know, like I own the first 2 books, the physical books, and I had every intention of reading them, but then I saw them as an audiobook. And at the time, when I was traveling a little bit further for work to Charlottesville, Virginia, it was a long drive, and on a whim, it was free from my Hoopla app, and I tried it, and I was like, I actually really like this. And this is one of those books where you could turn it up to 2 times the speed, which I personally, like, I prefer that speed, honestly. Just hits the ear. So nice. If you listen to audiobooks and you listen to them fast, you'll get what I'm saying, but it's just something about that speed. It's just perfect for me, and she sounds amazing when I listen to her talk. So absolutely recommend. The next category is my favorite manga of 2020. So I read all of Akame ga Kill Zero. I loved every single volume of this. It's really great to go back and see the background of Akame and her sister Kurame, what was really going on with the Empire, and how she and the other people who were a part of them and then eventually become the Jaegers, well, her sister does, what they endured. And like, really, you already know that the Empire is corrupt, but it's just that much worse. And I love Akame ga Kill Zero. The next one is Akame ga Kill. So again, I've absolutely loved this anime. It was one of my favorite, but this is gonna be the one time, maybe not the one time, but this is gonna be a time where I say the manga was better. Honestly, I just recently finished, like, finally reading all of Akame ga Kill, and I gotta say that I genuinely like the manga better. If you've never read it, this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so kind of skip ahead until you see the next one I hold up, but the manga does such a good job of developing relationships. Tatsumi and Mine, they actually end up together in the manga. And I loved that for them. Mine doesn't die in this. She lives, and Tatsumi, who eventually becomes consumed by the danger beast that lives inside his taigu. And even though he kind of like, he evolves into that danger beast kind of, he still has his humanity. So he's not like a human anymore, but he and Mine were getting in one. So she's pregnant, they're gonna have a baby, and they're gonna live happily ever after. I love that. And I was so sad that I didn't get to see that in the anime, because you really grow to love their relationship in the manga. Same thing with Wave and Kurume. They clearly like each other in the anime, and they live and go and be together at the end of the manga. And I wanted that for them, because you know how bad it is, like how sad Akame is, because her sister is hopped on the drugs that the Empire put her on, and she is constantly trying to be like, come with me and we'll try to get you clean, and you know, I don't want to say get you clean, but get you off the brainwashing stuff, or I have to kill you because I don't want you to like be in this situation. And in the end, basically they have their final battle, and Wave and Tatsumi kind of step in, and Wave is like, bitch, I love you, bitch. I ain't ever gonna stop loving you, bitch. Love that line. And they go away together. Now, Wave still comes in at the last battle to help Tatsumi, but they live happily ever after, and I loved that. There is no final moment where Esdeath like encapsulates herself with the dead body of Tatsumi in ice, and then they break apart. Like, I watched that this morning because I was like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't remember from the anime now. Like, certain people were already dead by the end of the anime that were alive in the anime. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted those relationships, and so anyway, I definitely prefer the manga to the anime. The anime still holds a place in my heart, but the manga is just so much better. So many more relationships happen, and I love them so much. And lastly, Demon Slayer. You know I was gonna say it. I love this manga so much. I think it's fabulous. It is kind of dragging a little bit now, these last volumes, because we're at the final battle. But I still love it. I think the story is amazing. I obviously love the anime so much, and I would definitely recommend Demon Slayer. Next up is favorite romances. I would have the physical book with me, but it is trapped behind my Christmas tree because my Christmas tree is in front of this particular bookshelf in my living room, so I don't have these two to show you, but you know, I'll put it up on the screen somewhere. First, I loved The Trouble with Hating You. I thought that was such a good romance, a little bit different in that, you know, it's not just, oh, you know, we have our little moment, we don't like each other, but there's, I don't want to say there's nothing going on like deeper, but I do think that sometimes you learn like kind of surface level things about people in some romance novels, and you like the character, but you know, you don't really get to know them like that. This book made me cry several times. It's definitely got a more traumatic situation going on, so a content warning for child abuse, because one of the characters has to deal with the fact that someone who is really big in the community abused her as a child, and her family has treated her poorly because of that. It has to do with religion, it has to do with the expectations from certain cultures, and I loved that book so much. And in the end, I cried. It was so good and so perfect. I loved it. And the last one is The Hating Game. That was like one of the first ones I read this year, and ooh, if you've read it, you know, steamy hot. The elevator scene caught me completely off guard. Like, I feel like I can remember myself sitting on my sofa like, oh, okay, elevator scene, here we go. Like, it was so good. I think those two are really great romances to read. I had my moments of laughing, and I also had my moments of like, no, but perfect, perfect, perfect. Next up, our favorite young adult fantasy. So first I'm going to talk about Dividing Eden, Eden Conquered. This one surprised me a lot. I talked about this like when I first started booktube. I read Dividing Eden and I was very surprised. I bought that book a while ago from Books A Million. It was like $3. I put it off, and then I was like, I'm actually gonna read stuff on my TBR. And I did. And that one blew me away. Like, it pissed me off in all the right ways. I immediately had to go out and get the second book. It was definitely worth it. This ends in a way that crushed me because I want to see what happens next. Like, she leaves you on a cliffhanger with this particular character that you love, like you root for, you want to see them basically figure out their powers because someone has some magic going on. And I would give almost anything, because we're trying to be reasonable here, to find out what happens to that character. So if a third book comes out, if a novella comes out, I will find it and I will read it. Next was going to be The Gilded Wolves, Silver Serpents. I've read both of these books this year, just like Eden Conquered and Dividing Eden. I thought this was really great. It definitely has its moments of being a little bit angsty to the point of being annoying, I'm not gonna lie, but I like the story. I like the cast of characters. Obviously, I really love Hypnos. He's my favorite of everyone, I'm not gonna lie. And I think the story is really cool. I'm really interested to see where the next book goes. Like I said in like a wrap-up video after reading this, there's a character that is supposed to be dead in a few days, you know, where this book ends. She's gonna die in like 2 days or something like that. So how fast-paced is the next book going to be to if this character dies or not? I'm stressed and I need to know. Next up is going to be favorite adult fantasy, and first up is going to be Kings of the Wild. This was such a funny book. I really loved this. It also made me cry. If you've read it, you probably know which scene I'm talking about. Got me good. Didn't expect to cry in this one, but this was really funny. I can't remember who talked about this one off the top of my head, but there's someone that I follow on booktube. They're from Australia, Piera, I believe. They talked about this, and they were also like, the boys are back in town, like, you know, kind of skeptical. And then when they did their wrap up, they talked about it and they just spoke very highly of it. I walked into this and I could not put it down. It was so funny. This is a book I would absolutely read again several times. And I kind of wish that the second book, that was a disappointing book for me, Bloody Rose. I know we see one of the characters again in the second book, but I would absolutely read another book just about them. No, definitely somebody dies in this one, but I would read another book about these guys, even if it was just as simple as them like being ridiculous dads. I want to read it because I loved them so much. And of course, Women's War series. I really hate the fact that I have to wait till next year for the third book. But this series really, really surprised me. I read the first book, Women's War, this year. I loved it. That was a thick ass book, 500 plus pages. Could barely put it down. I was obsessed. And as soon as I finished, I was like, I have to get the second one if there is one. And there was, and this was even better in my opinion. I did have some criticisms about the fact that this kind of disappointed me, that pretty much everybody is just in a cis heteronormative relationship. You know, with the theme of this book, I kind of feel like, why is everybody just in a heterosexual relationship? Just seems like that doesn't seem realistic, especially because, come on, if you've read the series, you'll probably understand where I'm coming from. But this is a really, really great book. I don't hear really anybody talk about this. When I first finished the first book, I went, you know, put the tag in or whatever in YouTube to try to find other people who reviewed it, and I only found like 3 people, which was disappointing to me because I think Women's War is actually really great. You know, it's 6 different perspectives, 5 of them are women. It's a really great series in my opinion. She could work on some other relationships in my opinion, because I absolutely shipped 2 people, and then we just are going to end up probably with the character that's still alive ending up with a man, which is disappointing because I want Kaylee to be with somebody else. But we'll see, you know. I don't think that you should have to wait that long to see something different, but we're gonna wait and see what happens. But I really liked this adult series. I would absolutely recommend it. Next up is going to be my favorite memoirs. First was going to be That's Mental, Amanda Rosenberg. This is a short, quick read, but it was very, very funny, informative as well. I think this gave me the opportunity to really like sit back and understand, like, there are things that you might say that you mean well, but really what you should do for the people in your life who are suffering in some way from mental illness is just try to be there and ask how you can help them. Don't offer people like the, have you worked out? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Like, don't do that. Just be there to listen. Just be there for them. But besides that, this was really, really funny. I definitely would recommend this one memoir just in general. It was funny, it was informative, like I said, and it was also a reminder of just be there, if that makes sense. The next one is going to be We're Going to Need More Wine by Gabrielle Union. This could also be in the audiobook category because I did listen to it as an audiobook. Gabrielle Union is the one who narrates it, and I love her. I love Gabrielle Union. I don't care that a lot of the movies that she played in when was like the early 2000s, like To Complete That Game. I don't care that she was like the villain. I'm gonna love her regardless because her name was Connie. Okay, number 1. Actually, number 1 was that it's Gabrielle Union. Number 2 was that her name was Connie. How could I not love? I have to, period. But I just love her. If you don't like Gabrielle Union, why? Ask yourself why and then make a change for your life because you're wrong. Okay, so next up is favorite horror / thriller. So first I'm going to be talking about The Caro Haunt. This was my first Darcy Coates book ever, and I'm glad that I really started off with this one. It was amazing. I loved it. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I think that Darcy Coates has a really good way of like ending a chapter in a way that you just have to keep going. You can't just stop. And that's what kept me up at night. Like, and I try to get 8 hours of sleep. She really tried to abuse me with this one, keeping me up, causing me to not sleep at night. It was really good. It made me have a little mini nightmare, and you know, I love that. It probably doesn't make any sense that, you know, I like scary things, even though I know I'm gonna have a nightmare, but that's just the way life is. What can we say? But this one was actually really, 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 really good. Next was Kill Creek. This was really awesome. I don't remember where I saw this book at. It was probably on a, you know, Halloween recommended video. I was really, really trying in the month of October to only read scary things, and this one showed up for me. 5 stars. I loved it. You're following a bunch of authors who are brought together by like a kind of like a horror influencer in a way, and he wants them to come to this haunted house, and then they end up kind of getting possessed by the house. And the ending really surprised me. I would absolutely love to read another book and see what happens with the final character in the end, because I was really sad that ended up happening, but at the same time I was very surprised I didn't see it coming. So this I absolutely recommend. And the last one would be When No One Is Watching. That was an amazing book. I would absolutely recommend that one, not just because the thrilling part of it is pretty thrilling. Not, when I think of saying the word thrilling, it seems like exciting, but I don't mean it like that, you know, like horrifying, thrilling. Anyway, When No One Is Watching is like the, you know, gentrification is already sinister, in my opinion, because of what ends up happening to the people who live in the community that becomes gentrified. It becomes too expensive for the people who are originally from here to live. They get kicked out, and then all of their culture is either erased or kind of like taken, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's whitewash this thing that we've gentrified. It just takes all of the culture out of it. So you've got that part of it, but then you also have the get out aspect of things. I mean, it was really good. I would absolutely recommend people read that. If that got turned into a movie, I know that would be a movie that, just like in Get Out, we would all be screaming at the TV, the screen, whatever. It's that good, in my opinion. And I cried at the end too, because in the end, the community is still one to a certain extent. So the ending left me feeling like, oh, is that it? You know, but not in that way of like, ugh, I feel let down. It was more like, I want to know more. Like, I want to keep following these characters now because they're great. I want to follow this community. I want to see what happens next. But yes, it was great. Next up is favorite nonfiction. First is going to be the 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls. This is another one that's a pretty short read, but I would absolutely recommend. Mona is an activist, and you know, she starts off talking from her own experience being a Muslim woman who is assaulted, and as she continued to become more conscious and active politically, how disturbing the world is to women and girls. I mean, that's really just a basic explanation. There's so much more in this. I think that this is something that could absolutely and should absolutely be required reading. I think a lot of people should read this, and this is a book I would also read again, but 5 stars. The next one was She Said. I read this with my sister. You know, this was basically following the Harvey Weinstein thing, so I put a lot of little tabs in here, but this was, it's hard, like with the nonfiction, it's hard to say this was really good, even though it's good, but not in the way that, you know, the adult fantasy was, because it is very real. It is real. It's reality. It's women being assaulted and being told that they are not going to make it in life. So you better keep your mouth shut. People in different countries being assaulted, and the religion being so oppressive that there is no justice. But you know, that could be the same thing said about America, let's be honest. And you know, with this one, you could be a Gwyneth Paltrow or a Uma Thurman, or you could be a me. No person is really exempt from experiencing something like this. And so these are 2 that I think are really important to read, especially because, you know, the whole Me Too movement was like within the 4 years of China. So it's still very new, if you know what I'm saying. And last was Lifting as We Climb, Black Women's Battle for the Ballot Box. This was really great. This is another one that's really short, and I also think that this should be required reading. This really allowed me to be introduced to a lot of Black activists who you don't hear about in the women's suffrage movement, and something that a lot of people might not know, that so much of women's suffrage was also coming from anti-lynching legislation. There were a lot of Black female activists who were silenced, unfortunately, because of racism and sexism on top of that. And, you know, we still see that today, which is very, very disappointing. But I definitely think that this is an informative read, and everybody should read this. Last but not least, we're going to talk about my favorite sci-fi of the year. First is going to be Parasite by Darcy Coates. This was my second Darcy Coates book. Did I read this or something? No, I read this during the month of October. This was really great. I really loved this story. Another one I definitely recommend. It was 5 stars. Basically, you're in space. There's a parasitic alien out to get you and out to take over the entire galaxy. And the humans have to come together and defeat the alien evil. This was really good. It left, I wouldn't say it left on a cliffhanger, but it left in a way that, you know, you don't know for sure what happened, but like you got a good feeling about it. Like we probably like beat everybody. Oh, well, all the aliens. But I liked this. If she did a second one, I would read it because I want to know what happens, but it was really good. And lastly, Alien Echo by Mira Grant. So I've said several times, I'm more of a Mira Grant fan than a Seanan McGuire fan, and this was a really awesome science fiction, like alien novel. I also listened to this on audiobook and thought the audiobook was really good too. To be fair, the aliens are giving me Alien from the movie Alien vibes, but I don't care. It was still really good. There's a little bit of love in here, which I didn't hate. I didn't love it. I didn't love the love, but I thought it was really cool. It's about two sisters. Well, yeah, it's about two sisters. It's about two sisters that are twins. Or are they twins? Wow, I don't remember. There's two sisters. Their whole family ends up on this planet. They're like a minimalist planet in a way. They only want to use the resources from the planet itself. But someone gets a little bit greedy and they want to kind of take this ship, kind of be pirates in a way. And her family, father, is a part of the mission to kind of like retrieve the ship from space. And unfortunately, it's carrying crazy aliens that are like really difficult to kill. So when they crash land onto the planet, now, you know, this planet that already has like some crazy creatures on it anyway, they've got to fight their way, these like teenagers, to get the hell off of here. And, you know, there's some frustrating moments in it, but there's something that you discover about one of the sisters, which, to be honest, I kind of felt like that was coming, but it doesn't matter. It's a short read in my opinion, and I like the audiobook as well. So if you want something that's like Alien, I would recommend this guy. And that's it. Those are my fave books of 2020. I'm really excited that I had so many to talk about. Technically, I know I'll probably end up reading a little bit more before the year is over, but to be honest, I don't think those are gonna kind of count as my faves. I could be surprised, pleasantly surprised, but there's one book in particular I know I'm not going to finish this year because I hate it so much. And then I went ahead and picked up another book that I'm going to talk about like in my wrap up, that it was very feel good. But anyway, I really like those books. If you've read them, please let me know what you thought of them. Were they your favorites? Did you hate them? And what were some of your faves from 2020? Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like the video and subscribe to moi if you want to. People say I'm funny. I agree. Anyway, thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.